So just for everybody's information, we are recording the about the webinar, and so you will all be able to get a copy. Dr. Dempsey, you can go ahead. I'll mute myself.
Okay, thanks, Anil, and thanks for the invite to talk about defying the dry, advanced drought strategies. So that's what we're talking about today, which is not something we talk about much in Ireland. Only rarely we have a drought. As I said to Anil, the major drought we face is when the pubs are closed, but that's a different drought altogether. So we're talking about resilience, efficiency, and turf health, especially now in this restricted water year. So, just a quick background in case you don't know who I am. Almost 40 years as a superintendent in Ireland. Went into academia, ended up with a degree or a PhD in turfgrass pathology, dealing mostly with diseases, but do a lot of independent research and been looking at stress responses a lot in the last few years. And did a lot of work with surfactants as well, research for various companies. So, and actually, one of the classes I did down in Orlando, in the freezing cold Orlando this year, was on stress responses in turf grasses, and of course, drought and heat would be two of the major abiotic stresses. So, just to mention today, we're being sponsored by Aquariton. There's their link down there on the bottom. They're producers and providers of nanotechnology and nano-silica products. I'll talk about them a little bit later on. It's a new method of turf delivery for nutrients and other surfactants, in fact. So you see a bit on that. So anyway, I'll just skip over here. One of my controls is on the other screen, so I have to keep looking over to that side to see what's coming up. So defining the challenge is the first little thing. What exactly is a drought? As I say, the pubs are closed, it's a drought. But meteorologically speaking, basically it's a period, usually a prolonged period of abnormally low, well, precipitation really. It says rainfall here, but we're in, where were we? In Vancouver, actually in February. And one of the conversations I was involved in, they were telling me that up north in Vancouver, the very small amount of snowfall this last winter, which they reckon would lead to problems. And they were quite right, because it's leading to a drought situation. Because obviously the precipitation we get through the autumn and winter has what's called the hydrological effect, the water cycle, as we say. Obviously, we need precipitation to fill up our things like aquifers, which are the underground huge storage areas, usually in gravel layers, which hold huge amounts of water, which provide, of course, then outlets in wells and springs leading to the rivers and lakes, of course. So lack of precipitation or low precipitation through the autumn winter, straight away at the start of the year, you're getting less available water in the ponds and your storage areas. So that's one problem that's coming up. There's also, of course, regulations over here in Ireland and in the UK. Apparently, whenever we get, say, from April onwards, we get even a couple of weeks of dry weather, immediately the regulatory bodies, the county councils and urban councils will put on a hosepipe ban. So there's restrictions. So this is what we have to face as well. Drought often means mandatory restrictions and non-essential water. So, I mean, what do they mean by non-essential? Do they mean, restricting water to a multi-dollar facility such as a golf course? So that's one problem you have to face also. So there's low amounts of water available, regulatory restrictions, and basically when we talk about a drought or low amounts of water availability, is basically it's a deficit of water between the soil moisture that's available and what our turf grasses require for healthy growth and metabolism. So a drought is what we're talking about really, or dry periods of weather. And one reason we're talking about it today is because of this, basically. This here now is from the US. Sorry, anyone in Canada, we haven't got you in it. Apparently, you don't get a drought up there, it looks like. But this will give you the indication. This is the current outlook, and this was from on the end of March. And it's given drought situations throughout, well, the USA here. But you can see huge amounts of area drought persists. So it means not only is there going to be a drought, the drought is actually in existence there already. I just saw in the comments there a chap in Colorado, which is probably around here somewhere, I think. But he was using his irrigation, he said, right through the winter. So drought all through this area here. I'm not sure, I hope that you can see my cursor. And drought development likely right through here through, let me see now, that would be Oregon and Washington State. I hope I'm impressing you now with my knowledge of US states here. But yeah, drought developing here and down here in Nevada maybe, and across here in the middle, whatever that is, Kansas maybe, and even up in the northeast. Sorry, the northeast, the drought. So as you can see, the prediction already is for drought persisting and developing right through up until June, and no one knows what happens after that. That could persist right through the summer. So the key regions are these areas here that are mentioned: the High Plains, the Southwest, and Western Canada. So that would be up there in British Columbia, where they were telling me about the lack of snowfall and so lack of water availability. And then there's also this mention of flash droughts, which is not a phrase I've used or I've heard of really. I've heard of flash floods, all right. But apparently, flash floods, flash droughts is where a rapid intensification occurs over 2 to 3 weeks. So you can get this rapid period of dry weather, which leads to this problem. So this is what we're looking at. Looking forward to, looks like a pretty dry couple of months anyway, and maybe longer. So what does this do on the turf grasses? Well, short term, well, we all know what happens when there's a lack of water with turf grasses. Usually they just turn yellow and stop growing, but a lot more going on with that. Obviously, you're going to get wilting, where you see the footprint, and when you walk on your surfaces, the footprint remains there. You get discoloration, of course. In the plant itself, I'm going to go into that a little bit more in a minute, but you get stomatal closure, which basically the plant is trying to stop. But obviously, the water is coming through the roots, moving through the plant, and exiting through the stomata. This is the transpiration flow. So the stomata will close. These are the respiratory openings on the leaf. These will close to try to stop loss of water. But for your particular facilities, and I've experienced this myself, of course, if you get some long periods of dry weather, your greens, your surfaces get very hard. They become thinned out, damaged. I've seen it myself where some of the balls landing on greens are like landing on concrete at times. So it has a huge effect on the playability of the course. But again, just to talk about what's going on in the plant, there's a graphic there on the right of the screen. Could be, on the right as you look at it. And it's, as I said, I did this class on stress responses, and one of the things I was talking about is that, okay, grasses turn yellow and stop growing, but there's a huge and complicated and complex response to stress like this. So you can see on the left of this particular plant, the yellowing and the wilting. But while this is going on, obviously the plant stops growing, because one of the things is diverting resources to fighting off and enhancing its defenses against this stress. If you start at the roots, what they will do, first of all, they will actually extend and try to explore more soil, and obviously to get more water from it. Now, long term, if it lasts for a long time, the roots will be damaged actually and start dying off. But initially, they will extend to explore more soil, to get more water. But also down in the root area, the plants, the turf grasses will produce these things like aquaporins, which are proteins which help the intake of water, but at the same time, it reduces the input of salts. So these are something that are produced. Now, all of these things I'm going to talk about as responses are what's called secondary metabolites. So they're not produced during normal growth because the plant doesn't need them. But under stress, they'll produce these things like aquaporins. Up in the leaf area, they'll produce things like osmolytes, which helps the cells to stop collapsing. And they'll also produce lignin, again, which strengthens the cell walls, again, to stop this lack of water and the cells collapsing. They try to have what's called water use efficiency increased. The cell walls, the stomata close. So basically what I'm saying, without getting into too much detail, is that under this drought stress, the plants will respond with a whole range of biochemical defenses. And what we should take into account is that all of these things are not produced out of thin air. So with regard to fertility, obviously don't apply any fertility when your plant is looking half dead or at the middle of a drought. But prior to the onset of drought situations, ensure that you're on a good balanced nutritional program so that the turf grass will have the resources to call on stored carbohydrates and that, so they can produce all of these biochemical defenses. So there's a lot going on regarding stress responses. So the first thing I would say is make sure your plant is as healthy as possible and has the nutritional inputs that it can respond to these stresses. So anyway, long-term effects, you will get then the plants the roots will start dying off. If you get to the stage where the crown is significantly damaged, well, then that's a serious problem. I've seen it myself. We had the last really dry summer we had when I was a superintendent was 2018, and now our irrigation system was absolutely horrendous and always had been. And I'm just saying to Anil, the fact that we might, here in Ireland, we might only get a couple of weeks of dry weather through the year. So to make the case to spend a large amount of money on upgrading or installing a good system was hard to do. So our irrigation system was bad. And we maintained our greens right through that dry summer of 2018. But areas like the approaches and the teeing areas were really badly damaged, and we did get this crown hydration, and we lost large areas had to be replaced coming into the autumn and that. So that's a serious problem there. And of course, once your plants are under stress, like ourselves, if we're under stress or under lack of nutrition ourselves, for example, we're much more susceptible to other secondary infections. So the plants, when it's weakened, is more affected by pests and diseases, of course. So, and damage, traffic damage as well. So quite serious. So this is the effects. I'm sure you probably have all experienced these right through your careers anyway. So what is the normal method of preparing or sort of responding to it? So this is a nice on the right, this poll that was done and published in Crop Forage and Turfgrass Management Journal is interesting because it went from 2005, 2013, and 2020, looking at how golf course superintendents, their tactics for responding to drought stress. And one of them, of course, is hand watering. Had done it myself. can be quite nice on a nice sunny day, but obviously it's very labor intensive. And again, labor is something that's almost in a drought situation as well, because even here we're finding it very difficult to get staff. So hand watering, while it's effective at hitting all the localized dry spots and high areas and that, it's very labor intensive. If you look at this form here, 2005, 88%, gone up to 96% now. So that's still a major factor in dealing with drought situations. Interesting one there is down here at the soil moistures, soil moisture meters and that. 2005, no one was using them. This was interesting, but you can see now almost 50%. But what else can we do? Well, obviously heat goes hand in hand with drought, and again, it's a different set of similar but responses in the plant. So keeping them cool by syringing is an area that also has to be covered. But again, you're losing a lot of water from evaporation there. You can look at, of course, and you'll have to do this, is prioritize. If you have a lack of water or restricted water, you have to obviously you're going to prioritize your high quality areas such as your greens and that, which is something, as I just mentioned, where 2018 we kept our greens alive and healthy, but we lost a lot of tea in areas. So you'll have to prioritize which areas you're going to look after and make number one, which obviously would be your greens. And of course, you could look at this brown as a beautiful thing, of course, which is okay, possibly if you have a lot of fescue in your areas. But what I found is once my poa went brown, it's tricky getting them back. But just sticking with this thing here, this chart is the wetting agents or surfactants were the key factor. Number one, 96% of the respondents said they relied on wetting agents to alleviate problems with drought. Other things, of course, that you can look at is, again, I mentioned soil moisture. This is a key factor nowadays, of course. You can use I've been using quite a few of them over the time, but last year I've been using the GCSAA handheld one, which I found very good actually. And this will help you locate. Now, obviously, the visual assessments of an experienced greenkeeper is always valuable, but this will go one step further and will show you which areas are drying out and which need the attention ahead of any visible stress. You can look, of course, at changing your species or cultivars. Few lads here are doing that, trying to change not only from a moisture management response, but they're looking at things like fescues from a disease management, less disease susceptibility as well. So you can look at turf selection. Growth regulators are quite useful because, again, using them, they're reducing the growth, so they're reducing the the transpiration rate, so the plant will be losing less water. So PGR is a good way of preparing yourself for this oncoming drought anyway. So as I said, the biggest respondent on the thing was wetting agents or surfactants. And sorry, there's another thing there I meant to mention, was about I mentioned my irrigation system I had, which was useless. So obviously, if you're heading towards a drought, you need to ensure that whatever system you have is up to standard and as best as you can get it. Ensure your things like your nozzles, your sprinklers, and everything. Just do a full audit and ensure that you can get it up and running as best as you can. Obviously, I can give you a few stories on my system some other day maybe, but I actually became an expert on tracking and fixing leaks and that. But anyway, that's another day's story. So obviously, yeah, soil moisture sensors, turf selection, growth regulators, and irrigation audits are all tools you can use to ensure that you're ready to roll. So I'm going to talk about surfactants, which is the big thing here that most people seem to be using. So surfactants, yeah, as I said, as an independent researcher over the past few years, I've done quite a bit of work with surfactants, 2019 to 2025, different companies. So I've been running maybe 2 or 3 trials each year for different companies. And the thing about surfactant is, this is the nice graphic here. The whole thing about this is ensuring that they're in the rhizosphere. This is the contact area between the roots and the soil. Is if your roots can keep contact with soil moisture, that's the crucial factor, obviously. So on the left is a good moist soil. You can see there is good contact with the roots into the water, and where all the nutrients are, of course, as well. And by drying out, they're losing contact. That picture there on the extreme right was my back area. In fact, my back lawn area, which is it's USGA sand base. And one of the trials I was doing last year, I gave this area, these areas, a treatment of a surfactant, 2 applications, and there's no prizes for seeing which half was treated with a surfactant. So the thing about it is, there's no doubt that surfactants are very effective and very necessary nowadays for maintaining your moisture levels. That's just something from about 2 or 3 years ago, one of the trials I was doing as well. Again, you can see the 3 treated plots here and the untreated one. So yeah, there's no doubt surfactants definitely are a huge help coming into this dry area. So now, as I said, I did a lot of surfactant trials. I want to show the latest one I did, which was in 2025. And this was using what's called a nanoscale surfactant. So, I mean, nanoparticles and nanotechnology, it's been used in agriculture and horticulture for a few years. But in the last 3 to 4 years, certainly, there's been quite an influx of nanoparticle technology in turf grasses. And I've been doing a bit of work with them also. So it's a very significant and new area, and very interesting, and I think it's going to be a very valuable area. So this is the trial. Now, let me first say, what exactly am I talking about nanoparticles? So basically, they are very small particles. They're usually based on silica. So very small particles of silica, ranging from 1 to 100 nanometers in size, usually about 25 to 30 nanometers. So that doesn't tell you much. What exactly are we talking about? What's a nanometer? Okay, so a nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. So a meter is just over 3 foot for you guys in the US. You might be familiar with millimeters. Height of cut, a standard height of cut on a golf green would be 3 millimeters. Okay, think of that, and think of 1 millimeter. And a nanometer is actually 1,000,000 times smaller than a millimeter. So a very tiny particle. And basically, as you can see on this chart here, there's various ways in which they're made or processed. I'm not going to go into them. But during the manufacturing process, you can actually attach a whole range of elements like nutrition, major and minor nutrients, and other bioactive compounds such as hydrophobic, hydrophilic compounds for surfactants. So during the process, you can attach these particles to the tiny nanoparticles. And basically what you have is a really efficient delivery system for these. So this is the trial we did with this nanoparticle surfactant back in last year. And basically we wanted to affect the sequential application of treatments. We applied them. There's the treatments there on the right. So we went with 8 different treatments every 21 days. And basically we had this nano surfactant going at 14 ounces per acre. This brings back memories. I mean, I did acres and ounces and all that when I was going to school, but that was 60 years ago. So hello. So anyway, the nano surfactant 14 ounce per acre went out. And then these were 6 other surfactants, which were market leaders, both in Europe, and they were used a lot in the States as well. So these were all good surfactants. The first thing you'll note is the difference in application rate, 14 ounces to 130, 190 to the nearest to it was this surfactant 6, which is nearly twice the rate anyway. So very low application rates for the nanosurfactant, I mean the untreated control. And we looked at things like soil moisture, stress responses, quality and health, firmness. Obviously, we're talking about moisture management today, so we're just going to stick with that. See, there's all the different assessments we did with this trial. So those treatments, those surfactants went out every 21 days, and or was it every 2 weeks? Hold on. It's sorry, hold on. This is flashing. Yeah, every 21 days. I did about 5 different trials last summer, so I forget these things sometimes. So these surfactants went out every 21 days, and we assessed all this here. But as I say, we're going to stick with the effects on moisture, volumetric water content, using the USGS soil moisture meter control. So what did we find? So surfactants, all good surfactants and a nanosurfactant. This is the rainfall we had during that trial period. The red ones are the 30-year averages, and the blue is what we actually got. So as you can see, June and July slightly wetter than usual. July, August and September was drier. So a good balance of water and dryness. August was quite dry for once, so a good test for our surfactants. So this is what we found. Now, all of the surfactants did what it says on the tin. They helped over the 15 assessments we did. They retained more moisture than the untreated control. So they all worked well. They all did well. The nanosurfactant was, well, as you can see, the 15%, most of them were down at around that, so much the same. Surfactant 6 was down a little bit lower, 14.69, but all the surfactants were much the same. The nanosurfactant was the number 3 regarding the amount of moisture. Now, if we look at it over the week by week from June to September, now the dates are in Irish. So we have the day and the month and the year. We don't have the month and the day. So this will be the 13th of June up to the 5th of September. So this is the level of moisture. As you can see, this yellowy dotted line is the moisture level in the control. So all of the surfactants were pretty consistent. Now I did measure the consistency of these results using statistical analysis. So basically what we're looking at, how much did these results, how much do they vary from the average, from the mean? So if you look down at the bottom, the control, it's 52.38 we got. That meant that there was a more peak and trough of the results in the control. They're up and down more over the average compared to the others. And the better, a more consistent level of moisture we got, in fact, was the nanosurfactant. Now, I think possibly because of this very fine particle size, that it was attaching to the particles more evenly. I'm trying to think of it like, if you think of say a golf green and it's covered in footballs compared to a golf green covered in golf balls. So the smaller particles are going to give a lot more coverage, sort of, I think. But we got a more consistent level from the nano. And one thing that did stick out when I looked at this chart as well, like I said, they're all much the same. But during that very dry August period down here, 22nd of August, the nano one actually retained a better level of moisture. So that was something to think about as well. But overall, the surfactants worked well. They helped retain moisture. Some were more consistent than others, but no complaints there. Now, I did a cost analysis of them as well, which I'm not showing, but there's a huge difference in the costing. So you could look into that yourselves, you know how much things cost. So, yeah. Now, you might think also, okay, so these surfactants were holding more moisture were they affecting the playability? Was it softer? So this is just the surface firmness readings we took, again, between June and September in the same areas, same plots. The control was actually quite firm. Well, there were some statistical differences, not much, but this one here, this number 6 surfactant, was the firmest. And that one, it actually was designed as I suppose you can call the marketing term penetrant, to help remove moisture through it. But the nano one here was the third firmest, even though it retained a lot more moisture than these two here. So, but overall, the effect on firmness wasn't to write home about. It didn't affect the playability at all, really. So just in case you were wondering. So the surfactants, yeah, they certainly do the job there. So that's just a quick thing here. We looked at the health and the NDVI. All the surfactants helped give a better quality of turf and a healthier turf as well. So surfactants do the job. You've seen it there. I was impressed with the Nano-silica Nanoparticle one, because a very low input to get a good result. Right. So you might think silica to alleviate drought stress. Now you might think, how is that going to work? I mean, surely that wouldn't have any effect on water management or drought. However, here's a few things to think about. Managing water stress with nanoparticle technology, or Nano-silica, basically. So it boosts nutrient and water uptake by increasing membrane permeability, strengthens cell walls by improving. So, as I said about the cell walls collapsing and osmolytes and lignification strengthening, silica will also help to strengthen cell walls to reduce stress damage. It enhances photosynthesis, allows better light penetration, higher chlorophyll, increases biomass, increases growth, and overall turf vigor. So Nano-silica itself and water management, it improves soil water holding capacity, especially in sandy soils. Enhances plant water status under drought and salinity across many species. Strengthens roots layers, reducing water loss from roots. Overall increases water use efficiency. Now, that's a lot of claims there, and I'm not making them. I'm just telling you that this is what has been shown. And there's a huge amount of published papers in peer-reviewed journals looking at the use of silica, or some people call it silicon. Here's, for example, silicon application increases drought tolerance of a Kentucky bluegrass. Silicon improves heat and drought stress tolerance in creeping bent grass. So a huge amount of papers looking at how it affects plants to respond to drought, and also how they can help to use water. Silicon improves water use efficiency in maize plants. Silica controls water storage capacity and phosphorus mobility. So what I'm saying is there's a huge amount of benefits from using silica in our systems. And one of the big things, of course, was actually getting it into the plant and getting it delivered and that. So this is, I'm talking about the nanoparticles delivery is a very efficient way of doing it. So now in that area, I want to show a brief trial I did again last year. This is in Bray Golf Club in County Wicklow, just south of Dublin. And this was a fertilizer, a nutrient trial. So there was no surfactants used in this. So basically, we're looking at two Nano-silica products, fertility products, and we wanted to apply them at different rates. You can see the rates here on the right. So Nano-silica A, I'm calling it, and Nano-silica B, different rates, different combinations. We wanted to trial it with a 2900 standard foliar product, which also had a lot of micros in it as well. One of the things was that there was absolutely no problems with tank mixing. So here's the thing, like these silica products, Nano-silica, are very small amounts. I know when I started with them first, I was amazed that one of the trials I did was with a liter of the Nano-silica compared to 25 kgs of urea. And I thought, how is this going to work? But it did. It performed very well. So if you are nervous or skeptical about using such a small amount, well, there's no problem mixing with any of the other. I've never found any compatibility issues mixing it with standard foliars or nutrient inputs. So this particular trial, we had two different nano-silica products, different rates, combining with this tank mix, the 29-0 tank mix and a PGR, different rates. Number 4 was just the tank mix on its own, the 29-0-0. And number 7 down the bottom here was just the nano-silica products without the 29. So a good range of fertility. And the whole idea was to evaluate these alone and in combinations, compare them to the standard treatment. And we measured a whole range of things, which we're not going to get into here because it's water is the main topic today. So we looked at all that stuff, NDVI, turf quality. We looked at growth. We actually assessed the color effects on it using what's called the DGCI index. We measured green speed and firmness, speed, smoothness, and trueness using the GS3 baud as well. And we looked at the costs. But again, that's for another day's talk. As they were concentrating on the effects on soil moisture and volumetric waters. And to that end, this as I say, this was not a surfactant trial. I just measured the volumetric water because it's just one of the things I do all the time. And as you can see here, I'm just going to put this up. Yeah. So all of the blue bars, right, are the products, the treatments that contain silica. The two red ones had no silica in them at all, which was interesting because we got much better moisture through June to September just by using silica. So that was an interesting result there. Also, again, through week to week, this was the first treatment, the nano-silica, the full rate, combined with the 29-0-0, I should add. This was the 29-0-0 on its own and the control. So again, as you can see, once the treatments kicked in from about start of July onwards, with much better moisture retention right through the full period. Similar with the silica B, the second nano-silica product, again applied with the 29-0-0, 29-0-0 on its own and the control. Again, once it got past the second or so treatment, better retention of moisture. Again, no surfactants used here. And just this is just the 29-0-0 on its own, and the two silica products themselves on their own, just with no 29-0-0. Again, all these are showing better moisture retention from silica. So, the published papers, which I didn't do obviously, but the published papers, a lot of them are saying silica will help retain moisture in the soil, has a beneficial effect. And this particular trial we did certainly proved that as well. So, what's next? I want to talk about, so we've seen surfactants are key to that. We've seen using silica is going to be a key issue as well. You're going to enhance your moisture, water use efficiency and moisture retention. So I want to talk about some current ones, or ones I started last September, which I'm going to continue on now with this particular year also. So the first one was the evaluation of nano-silica products to reduce drought stress and wilt in treated grass. So basically, this was done in the greenhouse here at home here, and we wanted to see how two different nano-silica products applied for 3 applications at 10-day intervals. So we applied them to our grasses in the greenhouse, and the plan was to we would then, after the final application, we would dry them down. We wanted to hit a 10% volumetric water target and evaluate the effects on drought stress for these on the grasses. And the second one then was we wanted to quantify how much water we could save by using nano-silica products. And how we did that again was in the greenhouse. So we had a couple of two of the Nano-silica products. We applied them similar to the top one there, and we brought the root zone down to 15%. And then we quantified the amount of water it took to maintain the root zones at 15% through the period. And so let's have a look at the first one anyway, first. I can hear someone talking. I don't know what they're saying, to be honest with you. Let me just continue on. So I'll take questions at the end, hopefully. So this is the first one, the evaluation of Nano-silica to reduce drought stress and wilt. So again, in the greenhouse,
Look and see if we can meet up.
I'm hearing noise there, but I can't really know what it is. Anyway, this ran from August. We applied 3 treatments at 10-day intervals. After the final application,
Is that the EFI edition?
I'm going to keep going here because I'm not sure who's talking or there. So, yeah, so the final application, we dried down the root zones. We wanted to reach, can I mute them? I don't know where they are, to be honest with you. Maybe Anil might be able to if he can get to it. So we applied the treatments. Then we dried down the root zones to, we wanted to get them to 10% and see what happened. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get that low.
Listen, I can find people come tomorrow. You're fucking guys now tomorrow. The rest of the only don't fucking play. You or oh, right. I couldn't keep it straight. Let me ask you a question. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep talking here. These are the treatments that went out. The Nano-silica 1, Nano-silica 2, and then the combination of them at different rates as well, and the untreated control. So the whole idea was to participants. Okay, let me see now. Trying to find. They seem to be off now, but I can see. I'll keep an eye on it. Okay. Anyway, they're the treatments that went out. 3 applications. We dried down the root zones then to we wanted to get to 10%. Now, unfortunately, we started this in September and ran through to December, and I just couldn't get them dried down enough in the greenhouse. It's just damp all the time, but it did produce some really interesting results. That's the dotted line on the bottom was our target, which we didn't get to. But as you can see, as we did dry them down, the silica treated pots in our trial retained much more moisture right through that period than the untreated control. So bear in mind, there's no surfactants applied. So we're going to continue this now next month when we get through the summer and that, and get some high temperatures and see how the wilting and drought responses are affected. So that was interesting. Now we did get, again, we got some data on the NDVI from these treatments as well. And again, the silica treatments, the Nano-silica, provided better NDVI, better turf quality, and better color. So that was something as well. So we retained more moisture and got better growth responses there as well. Now, the second one I want to show was the where we wanted to quantify the amount of water it took to maintain at a 15% volumetric water. So again, we had, it's in the greenhouse, the treatments were much the same, 2 Nano-silica products at different rates and combinations. We also had the Nanoparticle Surfactant in there as well. So that was the extra one there. So applied the treatments and then sat back and let them dry out down over the next few months in the greenhouse. And then we started, once we hit 15% on the volumetric water scale, I added water to maintain at that and measured exactly how much water was required to keep at the 15%. This is some of the, as you can see, so volume of water, now sorry lads, it's in milliliters, so you just have to go with the flow here, as they say. So the volume of water to maintain at 15%. So there's the different treatments down this way on the left. It was October before we got anywhere near 15%. And I had to start adding water then, as you can see, 200 mil in the untreated control, 100 mil here, 100 mil there. So by the end of the trial, they quantified the total amount of water needed to maintain at the 15% mark. And you can see this here where we started September, started drying down, and this was the range we wanted to maintain at. So we started adding water here. And this is what we found. The control here, the untreated control, that was the standard for comparison, so 100%. So to maintain the 15% volumetric water, the surfactant, the nano-surfactant, required 44% of the amount of water that the control did. And all these other silica ones, which had no surfactants in them, the Nano-silica 1 at 4 ounces per acre, 69%, 75% of the water for the control. So by using these particular Nano-silica fertilizers and the surfactant, we were saving a lot of water, which was to maintain our 15, which was interesting. And I think it's going to be valuable as well. It sort of backs up what we saw in the field trial as well. So again, just to reiterate, it took the surfactant, Nano-silica surfactant, needed 44% less of the water compared to the control. And even this one here, which was the Nano-silica 1, the two combinations at 3 ounces per acre, we only used up 75%, 3/4 of the amount required for the control. So good, we're going well for time. So take home points from what I've been talking about is drought is on the way. We've seen that. You're getting the warnings already. Actually, it's there already in the States, according to the survey. So what would I say? Well, ensure your irrigation systems are up to grade and you have water availability and its delivery, of course, if you can. Again, ensure the surfaces are prepared, as I said, to respond to stress, such as drought and heat or any stress. The turf grasses have to have the resources. They use up resources to produce these biochemical defenses and responses. So ensure you're on a good balanced nutritional program. We know now, we've seen surfactants are a significant help, and we saw from the trial from last year that all the surfactants worked well. I would say there's quite a difference in costs between them, so bear that in mind. Nano-silica inputs will also help. We've seen that in the field trials from the fertility and from the greenhouse work. What else is there? Well, Aquariton sponsored today, and they're, as far as I know, they're the leading provider of nano products in turfgrass anyway. And we know from silica, from the work we've seen published and the work I've done as well, that the Nano-silica strengthens cell walls, as I say. So it's going to physically stop cell collapse during lack of water, but also as a plant pathologist, it's going to reduce infection. It's going to reduce the ingression of pathogens into the cell as well, slow them down so the plant can respond more rapidly against disease. It's going to reduce transpiration losses. It's going to help from the published papers as well. It'll help with heat stress mitigation, increase photosynthesis, even when temperatures climb. That's been shown in the papers there as well. It's been shown also to promote deeper roots, more wide-ranging roots. So obviously, the bigger the root system, the more moisture and more nutrients, in fact, the plant can take up. And yeah, so it complements surfactants as well. The silica nutritional products, along with the surfactant, would work very well. So what else can we say? Well, as I say, from what I've done or did with the trials, the 2025, the surfactant, nano-surfactant performed as well as the market leaders, but with significant cost savings, which is really important. In the fertility trial, all the plots that were treated with nano-silica produced higher mean moisture levels compared to those treatments without. That's without a surfactant. The greenhouse trials, which we just had a quick look at, was all nano-silica treatments reduce water required to maintain the 15% compared to the control. As a percentage of control, it ranged from 44 to 75% of water usage. So it takes a lot less water to maintain the target volumetric water level. And nano-silica products, they should reduce irrigation requirements, which is a big thing, while preserving soil moisture. So yeah, so quite some interesting points came up there through those particular trials. And that, again, as I say, today sponsored by Aquaritin. And what time is it? 10 to 5. Well, sorry, it's what time is it there? 10 to 1 probably, where you are in the States. So I'm not sure whether there's any questions or not. We'll have to try and see. I'll have a look at the chat thing here now, see what comes up. Just seeing if we got anything to talk about. Anyway, anyone got questions they want to throw them in there or anything? I think we're doing a poll. Are we, Evan? That should be coming up soon.
There will be a poll at the end of the call.
Okay. Do you think the urea was more effective when applied with nano-silica products? Well, I didn't apply the urea with, or did I? No, I applied it on its own. There were separate applications. Well, you shouldn't need to apply the two of them together, I would think. In the trial I did back in 2023, where I compared the nano-silica inputs directly with the urea, the nano-silica performed just as well, slightly a little bit better than the urea over the full period. So you wouldn't need both of them going together. Does silica break down in the soil, or does it persist? Well, that's something I can't answer at the moment because it's not something I've looked into, to be honest with you. So yeah, so I can't say yes or no on that comprehensively, to be honest with you. But it's a good point and something that maybe we should look at in the future, no doubt. Was Defend the Nano-silica 1 you listed in your charts? No, Nano-silica 1 was acquired in 19, in fact. Defend was number 2. Oops, what have I done there? Now, I don't see any more questions coming up. So, where is there? I use 19, Defend, and Spark together on the greens. And man, oh man, I love it. That's NB, whoever that is. So yeah, there you go. He likes it anyway. Actually, a lot of my friends, fellow greenkeepers here in Ireland and the UK, are using them. And I've only heard anything positive about them, which is unusual because no matter what product you go with, nearly someone has something awkward to say about it. But I haven't heard any bad reports from it yet, so it must be good. All right.
So, John, I wanted to jump in on that one question regarding how much of the silica is left in the soil.
Yes, good. Have you information there, Anil? Yeah.
So basically, because ours is a fine foliar spray, it pretty much gets absorbed entirely in the leaf, and obviously some of it goes down to the roots and is available, but soil itself has a lot of silica in it. although that silica is not available to the plant. But in a way, this question is moot because the amount of silica on the soil is far in excess of what we have actually apply. And most of the nano-silica is, gone away with the cuttings and everything, as you mow the grass. So really very little impact on the soil.
Okay, there's another question which we sort of answered. Any compatibility issues with the silica product? Well, I haven't seen any. I've been mixing it with a few things over the last 3 or 4 years. Have you anything to say there, Anil?
Yeah. So, now we are almost 7 years into selling these products, and we haven't had not even one complaint in 7 years about it causing trouble in the tank. There could be 1 or 2 products that are rarely used by anybody, but they could have some compatibility issues. It's always a good idea to
Always do a jug test.
do a jar test.
Always. I know I've been caught over the years with different stuff. It's a terrible situation to be in when your tank turns to sludge. I put it in with all kinds of products and never had an issue. Keith Lyle. Yeah. What type of field test can I do to show them? Well, I think the best thing is to let them try it themselves, Joe. Give them a product, and what I've been hearing from my friends, steel superintendents, once they've tried it, now it takes a couple of applications, not just one application is required. I think you need to go, as what I found in the urea trial, it takes a couple of applications for it to have full effect. So that's what I say to them. Try it. Yeah.
I think we're done with questions. Evan, you want to put up the poll?
So the poll will show up once everybody exits the chat.
Oh, okay. All right. I think we can close. I thank you, Dr. Dempsey, for this thorough presentation. Hopefully our audience found something of value here. And we look forward to engaging with them as and when there is a need to do so. And thank you so much again. We'll end the call now.
Good.